This video is sponsored by OneFootball. OneFootball's app makes it easy to keep up to date with transfer news, scores and stats all in the one place. To download the OneFootball app, click the link in the description. The app is free.
Welcome to Toffee TV. I am in the Everton hub. I'm with John Blain from the Everton Business Matters podcast. John, the accounts came out yesterday. What are your initial thoughts on what we've seen?
I guess the initial thoughts would be not a surprise. I mean, maybe fans in general, the first thing you would think, oh, crikey, we lost money. I think that's to be expected because, as we know, we can talk in a minute, I guess, about the income streams and the like. But we have had quite a high turnover in managers during this reporting period, as accountants would say, and that they're exceptionals, so they're one-offs, if you will, and they've caused us to go into loss. Yeah.
From a business point of view, is it not a worry when you put in those factors, managers, players, just a completely turbulent year? Some would say a freak year. If you from a purely business point of view, would you look at that and go, that's just an exception that year?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, one of the things you would ask is what sort of decision-making processes did we go through to appoint the managers who we then dismissed? Yeah. And clearly, I don't know, was Allardyce counted a dismissal? I suppose it wasn't, was it? We don't know, do we? Because we're not totally sure how long he had. But clearly, that's crystallised in these accounts, his departure, and before that, Koeman, and of course the management teams as well. Yeah. So yes, I think what you try and look at is underlying performance, and underlying is clearly broadcast revenues have stayed roughly flat. We've had an increase in commercial revenues, frankly driven by a couple of things, one of which being our participation in the Europa League, which is now worth more money than it used to be in the past. It wasn't worth going in before, but it's not so bad now. And of course we've got full years of the new deals with SportPacer, Angry Birds and USM. So those things are all good, and if you do them in percentage terms, they sound fab, the big percentage increases and the like. But as we've always said, and particularly on Business Matters, coming from a low base, so positive news in that sense. Record revenues sounds good, but our revenues are clearly still, a third of Man United's or something. So that all turns into challenges on when you're trying to compete for players and the like. Yeah,
the club are projecting it as a very positive year. They're putting all the positives forward and sort of leaving the 13.1 million debt sort of at the bottom of the pile. Would you?
That's what you'd expect, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, you need to be pragmatic. You need to be honest. I think it's perhaps a bit harsh. You're implying that they're hiding the bad news. Yeah. No, I think in broad terms that there is progress on commercial, but it's still not very good. There is progress in other areas, and some of the investments that we're making, particularly in staff and players and the like, they all increase things like amortisation, which is obviously has an impact on the balance sheet. So yeah, I think that they're okay accounts. They're not wonderful, and because you can't we're constrained here at Goodison Park on match day income. Commercial income needs to get better, which is what we're talking about, really. And player trading, we're not going to sell I think somebody said today, we're not going to sell a Lukaku every day. Yeah. And they're in the numbers as well. So I think we've done okay. Yeah, not great. Room for improvement, always. But I think it is fair to say that in the round, they're positive.
You mentioned the new deals, obviously SportPacer, USM,
Angry Birds,
and
a whole host of other small.
Is it now? Have we got to, rather than say, well, we need to get a bigger and better shirt sponsor? That's not going to necessarily happen. Is it now about adding more smaller deals, to the portfolio?
Both. It's always both. If you call it a twin track thing, you want to increase the size of the portfolio, increase the number of market segments that you get involved in. So you've got tyre manufacturers, you've got financial organisations, betting companies, whatever it might be, and spread yourself as broadly as you can. Because clearly, if we wanted, I don't know, we talked about this with Roger, didn't we, on Toffee TV about, let's have a £25 million a year, shirt sponsor.
Yeah.
That might be more difficult. It sounds daft, this, because just for illustration, though, that might be more difficult than getting 25 small companies.
Yeah.
who all give us $1 million each.
Yeah.
So we have to do both. I think we have to have those headline deals, which, you know, when we get to Bramley Moor will include stadium naming rights and all those sorts of things. But we also need to have as many different sponsors as we can, because that minimises your risk of them going away and the like. And that really is what Manchester United really trailblazed, you know, about 10 years ago. You know, the number of sponsors they have, or partners as they might be called, is huge.
Yeah.
And some of them are probably not paying very much money, but they all add up.
Yeah. Farhad Moshiri put £100 million into the club.
Another 100.
Well, that's £250 now.
250
and he's a fraud.
£1 million. I mean,
is that good business?
You said talk to you. Can I talk to the camera?
You can talk to the camera all you want.
Yeah, you talk about, you know, fraud, because there are people out there who are thinking that Farhad Moshiri, you know, we've got this billionaire. Why aren't we winning everything? You know, £250 million. He's already put in 50% of the cost of building a new stadium. But more importantly, whilst the man is a billionaire, he's a little billionaire.
Yeah.
And so the percentage of his net worth that he's put into the football club is huge. I might ask Paul, actually, can we do the numbers and say, you know, Abramovich is worth X and has put in Y, Farhad is worth Z and has put in whatever, and we may find Farhad's contribution of net worth is greater than Abramovich's was. So yes, people, he's not a fraud, absolutely not. And as you know, if you read the accounts, not only has he put all that money in, he's not said he wants it back. He's not charging any interest on it, if you will. You know, so it's pretty much a commitment, a personal commitment to put the football club on a solid footing, to overcome some of the challenges that have, you know, when you have big costs associated with getting rid of managers and coaching staff and all those sorts of things, in parallel with growing the business, because the head count of the business has gone up as well. So
is he betting on blue? You know, is he like a gambler in a way, where he's not chasing after the gamble, but knows that if he doesn't put money in and put money in, that anything he's put in before that is not really worth anything?
No, I don't think gambling is the right phrase, to be honest. And if you look at what the man's done in his career previously, it's very much about you know, playing a medium to long term game. I mean, if people look at the types of companies who are going to lend money for the stadium, for example, they don't want to make a quick buck overnight. They want steady income over a number of years. And the thing for the fan base, who Lukaku, if you like, you know, one of the bitches he had was he talks to his mates, and, you know, when he's away with Belgium about what happened at Man City, but the rules were different then and so on. So people anticipating we get a billionaire and the next day we're you know, Champions League contenders and all these sorts of things. It's not that easy, you know, and because we hit the reset button almost when we got rid of Walsh and we got rid of Koeman, and that cost us a lot of money. We've almost back to a place called start, aren't we? And that's how we've said it on the podcast on an occasion. But putting people like brands in place, having proper plans and the like is what it's all about.
Is that 100 million then almost like a way for him to say, well, I've made mistakes and here's me making up for it in a way? Because some of the doing has in a way been his mistakes, and when I say that I don't mean business mistakes, I mean the managers,
the claims that Allardyce was his decision, Koeman he heavily influenced, if not it was his decision. Now I think what happens is he is the majority shareholder, he clearly has a line of sight that ends up with him with 3/4 of the business, and you called it gambling, but he knows that if he doesn't, you know, strengthen the business in times of hardship, if you want to call it that, you know, with cash flow and the like, that what he has invested gets devalued. I have no idea, probably because I haven't asked him the question, is how much did he anticipate he was going to have to put in?
I'm sure you'll get there.
Yeah, I will. How much did he anticipate he would have to put in? But let's not forget, and I don't know if I've ever said this on your TV thing, but I certainly have talked about it on the podcast. When I saw Farhad back in the summer, I asked him a direct question. It was only 150 million then, wasn't it? In fact, it might have been 250, he just wasn't telling me. And I said to him, how are you going to get your money back? And he said, well, I'm not, am I? So it's an investment, and clearly he can see the value that this football club could be hugely valued when we've got a new stadium and we are competing for those top 4 places for Champions League, and we are appearing in Europe every single season.
And just finally, also in the accounts, there's 11 million or just over 11 million that is done on the stadium. That obviously goes into our accounts till the planning permission comes in. I mean, that is further proof, isn't it? If anyone out there, again, you'll get people every day, mostly Reds, telling us that we're not getting a new stadium and it's nonsense and it's this and
they're
that.
going to be really disappointed.
But that 11 million, I mean, you might spend it on players who were rubbish, but you wouldn't spend it on, you know, time and all the things that you spent on.
Yeah, and you have to look at accounts a bit like the regulations around financial fair play and all those sorts of things. You have to look at them over a period of time, yeah. And so you're calling out 11.4 million in these accounts, but there was 10ish in the accounts before for the stadium. So we've already invested over 20 million pounds. And people say, well, we haven't seen images yet, we don't know what the capacity is yet, and so on. So yes, it's a real serious project, and it is going to happen.
There you go. On the Everton Business Matters, I believe you've got a very good interview this week.
We have. We were at the Royal Liver building this afternoon, myself and the ESC, with Sasha Ryzantsev, and Paul interviewed Sasha about the accounts, about the stadium, about growing income, controlling costs, and all the things you might expect two financial anoraks to talk about. But actually, I've listened to the first 15 minutes of it, and it's actually quite listenable. So when it hits the streets, which I'm not quite sure when it will, normally we publish on a Thursday, so if people watch out for that, I think they'll enjoy it.
Brilliant. I'm sure it'll be well worth listening to, as they always are. Big thanks to John Blain for coming on and explaining those accounts to us. Make sure you check out the Everton Business Matters podcast. We'll see you later.
Cheers, guys.